Today I'm going to show you how to set a non-intrusive actuator on a butterfly valve. The actuator is installed on a double eccentric butterfly valve, and the main parts that we will use for setting are made of one LCD display for the status of indication and program support, 4 push buttons for going up, down, stop and enter, and a selector switch that enables to select local control, 0, and remote control. The first thing I'm going to show you is how to properly set the torque limit on the actuator. The torques are different according to the diameter and the nominal pressure of the valve. The torque ranges for each valve are supplied by the technical Saint-Gobain service. Let's set the torques. Check that the selector switch is on 0. Push reset button for at least 3 seconds. The main menu will be shown. Using the arrow, selecting customer setting. Push enter. At this point, 3 settings modes are available. Select torque switching. Using the arrow, select torque switching and push the enter. Here we can choose between closing and opening torques. Let's start with closing torques. Push enter. Right now in the screen I can see at which torque the actuator is currently set. What I do is to verify the closing torque needed for this type of valve and choose the torque accordingly. Push enter. Enter specialist. Password will be required. The default password is 4 zeros. Digit enter 4 times. Password is OK. I will turn back to the previous position. Push enter again. At this point I can change the Newton per meters to the ones required for closing. With the arrow I'm going to switch the Newton per meters up to the torque required. Once you have done, push enter and the closing torque is set. Now to exit I turn back pushing reset once. I'm going to select trip torque open and I repeat the same procedure for the opening torques. In the same way I select the Newton per meters I need for the valve, pushing enter, and the opening torques are set. In this way I will have the guarantee that the actuator will not over-torque the valve, avoiding problems to the main valve. To exit, push reset as much as needed to turn back to the main menu. Now that the actuator torques are set, we can proceed to set the opening and closing limit switches. The first limit switch we are going to set is the closing limit switch. First step is to completely close the valve. To close the valve, arm the end wheel, pushing the button in the middle. Once the end wheel has been armed, let's proceed to close the valve, moving the end wheel clockwise. The valve disc will close till the valve will reach the gearbox mechanical end stop. Once the valve has reached the mechanical end stop, we proceed to set electric end stop on the actuator. In case we are moving large diameters valve, which has a lot of gearbox turning, I can partially use the actuator for the operation. Push the closing button, and once closing is almost reached, we can finish the closing using the end wheel. Let's see how to set the closing end stops. Be sure that the switch selector is on 0. Push reset for at least 3 seconds. You will be entering the main menu. Using the arrow, move to customer settings and push enter. At this point, 3 types of setting modes are available. For this operation, we have to set closing and stop. Move to limit switches, push enter, The system will ask you set and position closed or open. In this case, we have to choose closed. Push enter and we will be led to this menu. Push specialist. Password is required. The default password is 4 zeros. Push enter 4 times. Password is OK. And you will see the question set and position closed. The valve has already been closed, so we push enter. The end stop is set. Once the valve is set, the yellow LED beneath the valve symbol is lit. In order to verify that the end position has been properly set, put the selector on local. Open the valve a little bit. Push stop and close the valve again. Okay, the valve has to close up to the limit switch without any type of fault. Now that the limit close is set, we can proceed to set the open limit switch. We can completely open the valve. We arm the end wheel. We move the valve counterclockwise to reach the opening. As explained before, for large emitters valves, you can use the electric motor for the purpose. And once the opening position is almost reached, keep on opening the valve using the end wheel. Once the valve is arrived to the opening mechanical end stop, we can proceed to set the actuator. Let's set the opening limit switch. Remember that before of doing that, you have to completely open the valve up to the mechanical end stop. Set the selector as 0. Push reset for at least 3 seconds and repeat the same procedure used for the closing limit switch. Select set and position open. Push enter. The password will be required. The password is OK, and the system asks for limit switch confirmation. Push enter. The opening end stop has been set. We have just seen how to set the opening and the closing torques and limit switches on an actuator with a non-intrusive reversing unit. I remind you that in case of standard configuration, the valve is delivered with the actuator already calibrated, and it's not necessary to review the limit switch or torque settings. The calibration of the torque and the end stops are necessary only in case that I have to change or install a new actuator. You must be absolutely careful to not operate the motor if the torques and the limit switches have not been set. Otherwise, you can damage the main valve or the actuator. For any further information and details, please contact Saint-Gobain Pump Technical Office.